So the global Dokkan celebration is finally underway, and as we move towards potential easy A's in a bit, I kind of wanted to talk about what the celebration has in store for us, the part 2 leak that we got, and if you're not really feeling a future Saga or GT, like say you're just holding out for either Daima or, you know, just something else. Say you're just not feeling the celebration, or maybe you didn't have stones going into the celebration and you think the best course of action for you is to save, then let's look at the next big landing spot and why we can potentially see another character who, again, much like the Rose and Goku Black here, have probably usurped the title of best units in the game from Vegito. Because if you're a, you know, relatively frugal, you know, free-to-play player, you know, you might be looking at like, what's your next landing spot when these two here are sort of getting power crept out? Like we're seeing it happen, right? They're not bad. They're not, you know, unusable or anything, but we've still probably got another, you know, big fight coming up, which means this might get a little more dicey somehow. Like if you can even imagine it getting more dicey than the current exhibition we've got going on with the Goku Black and Zamasu, right? So what is like the new thing they could be planning for something like this, and where should you be looking if you're looking ahead as a free-to-play player, right? So I'm going to pause and we're just going to go through the information as it sort of comes. So the current landing spot for the next big wave of power creep will probably come in the form of what I imagine will be a tag Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who use an active skill like the current Goku and Vegeta from part 1. This is going to get memed to death. Everyone's going to be so, oh my god, it's raining, it's pouring. I don't care. But if you do, like, let's say you do, let's say this is a big disappointing thing to you, that doesn't mean it's irrelevant. I'm just saying I personally don't care. What we have seen though is that they are clearly going in a direction with content for a little bit. Dokkan works in content cycles, and what I mean by that is it works off of the fights. When we get content cycles, that's when you pull, because otherwise there's nothing to actually use your characters on, right? That's just how Dokkan works. It's how Dokkan will always work. It's how a lot of gacha work. You plan your account around the content cycles. For the anniversary, we typically get the hardest fight in the game, and then for Tanabata or for worldwide, we typically get the new hardest fight in the game. Right? Does that make sense? We still haven't seen this one that's coming out. We don't even know what this is, but as far as we know right now, this is probably the new hardest fight in the game. And because of that, characters, and they know that, like Dokkan knows that, they know how difficult it is. They make these stages very, I would say they make the hard stages purposefully, and the lesser stages are, you can tell, or throw away. They expected this to be difficult because the equips you get from them are really powerful, and they're so powerful that even whales like Truth are using the equips you get for these guys on them, you know, because they're just like stats you can't replicate essentially. So that's a big thing. They knew how powerful these would be, so they made these stages very difficult so that you would have a wall in front of you getting into, you know, your new shiny characters. And that's why they built them specifically to have like no problem in the fights, right? So what's going to happen probably is they're going to do the same for part 2, and whatever they make here is going to be the new, you know, top 4. It's probably going to be the top 4 characters in the game, because we understand that they're going this direction with content, at least for a little bit, at least until Tanabata. We don't know what Tanabata is going to be, but we could easily see the return of, you know, we could easily see the return of, like, you know, Vegito in a big way when content moves a little bit. And it's not like he's bad now, it's just he's more caught, especially the Gogeta card, right? Where they're just more caught, it takes a little more RNG to get them through these hard fights, but it is what it is. We understand that, right? So Dokkan moves in content cycles. I always say that for like the last 6 months, there really hasn't been any reason to pull. You didn't need any characters to pull. Once you had Vegito and Gogeta, you did not actually need any of the characters that came out, period. You didn't need them. You could want them, but you didn't need them. As long as you had Vegito and Gogeta, which you should have, because you should have pulled one Vegito, and then you got a ticket to get any of the anniversary units you wanted, which probably should have been Gogeta, right? As well as the, you know, the gods and the fours being on the banners, so you probably would have came up with them as well. That said, we're going to move off of, you know, Zero Mortal's plan and the Future Saga into a GT Celebration Part 2, right? As a Part 2, a GT Celebration. What that means is, if you're a big GT fan, maybe you weren't feeling Future, maybe you didn't like that they didn't fuse, here's the fucking brass tacks. This will probably not be a standalone Gogeta. This will probably not be a Gogeta fusion. This is going to be an active skill probably. Like, I mean, they like to mirror the Gogeta and Vegito cards. They like to. We know that. Like, we do know that, right? If you're not into that, which is fine, what this does tell us, because Dokkan moves in content cycles, is that the next character after will probably be well designed for whatever they have in place. I would say something to the effect of, you know, the Glorio and Daima Goku here, right? So when Daima does happen, if it does happen, you know, it should at some point. When Daima does happen, if it happens, we should be getting characters at least able to match up with these two guys coming in, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, right? Because we understand that this is the content cycle that Dokkan is currently in, and for the next however many months until Tanabata, or I mean maybe even Anniversary, this is the fight we'll be seeing a lot of, or the types of fight we'll be seeing a lot of until they come up with something else, right? It is what it is. If you hate it, you know, do your dailies and take a break from the game. If you love it, good news. I think the fight is really good. Obviously it's RNG, but everything in Dokkan is essentially RNG. Festival of Battles takes 4 hours and is literally RNG. You could just get fucked by Daima, Goku, and Glorio not positioning their supers in the right spot, and then you lose the run, right? So, and that's 4 hours. So, it is what it is. I think the fight is pretty well made within the confines of Dokkan's parameters. The reason that, again, I've gone over this in the other video, but the reason you can't really compare it to something like, I can't show it here, but something like the Red Zone Fusions Monsters, because the characters are actually good. So it makes no sense to like moan about that. Like, it's not the same circumstances, you know, context matters. So what would happen? So what happens after this? You know, clear minds say Daima, but Daima is looking more and more like 11th Anniversary the longer they take away from it, right? We know it's Omega Shenron or Shin Shenron that goes into Omega Shenron. Maybe it's a Shin Shenron that has an Omega Shenron active attack, right? Like, you know, it could be, right? That could just be the theme of this global download celebration, and if I'm honest, I think it's worked pretty well. I think the animations have been pretty good. I think it's unique. I think the tag function has been uniquely used. The characters are very different. You could say that, you know, there's no reason to go into Vegeta or Zamasu. Hey, I mean, fair enough, but when you go into Vegeta or Fusion Zamasu, or I guess regular Zamasu, they perform. You know what I mean? They're not duds. They're just not slot ones, and slot ones are invaluable, right? If we get a bunch of slot ones, you're going to start seeing Zamasu and Vegeta come out. I'll say that. The other thing is that Legends just got Ultra Frieza and Ultra Super Saiyan Goku. And as I said with this, I actually predicted this for the 10th anniversary, because I say that Dokkan and Legends copy each other a lot. They do all the time. We just got the Goku Black and the Vegito, quote unquote. And I said you know, that the Daima celebration that everyone was predicting for GDC, once I saw the hint, I said, isn't that Rose? You know, and then, you know, lo and behold, look who shows up. In 2 months or a month or whenever they decide to do Tanabata, I'm not entirely sure of the landing date here. In that month when Tanabata shows up, do not be surprised if we skip Daima and we go in to a Frieza and Goku celebration, because they love to copy each other. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. They're literally Dragon Ball IPs, and they get people hype. It gets people hype when they pull for Ultra Namek Goku, and then on Dokkan, they open their Dokkan app, and then they pull for Super Saiyan Goku. It does. The other thing that Legends has shown us, and I hate to be this guy, is they stood on business and said, you know what? Kaioken Goku, Grade 8 Vegeta for part 2. They said it is hype enough for Anniversary. So do not be surprised, right? I'll just say that. All of this is just to sort of highlight that, you know, there are options here. I do think Tanabata would be a good landing spot, only because the Tanabata LR typically is a pretty easy like fill in, because like look at these two, right? We get Ultra Instinct Sign Goku, we Easy A Jiren, which makes sense. We go into, you know, a bunch of Easy A's here for the Tournament of Power, and then we end up at, oh, I guess this is global, so we don't see it, but it would have been an AGL Jiren, right? Whoops, right clicked. It's not the hardest celebration in the world to find room to put in two new to the game characters, especially if we then, you know, take this into a direction of like, well, what will they do for Daima? And the long and short of it is, I mean, who kind of cares? They'll just figure something out. Time travel seems obvious. Dragon Ball Seeker seems obvious, right? From there, it just becomes like whatever they really want to do. And Great Ape obviously seems obvious. I mean, Tanabata filling in where essentially the Heroes celebration was could mean they Easy A some of these giant ape power characters. I think that would be really unique, all right? Because these characters are never coming back. Maybe they don't have the licensing to it though, and it means that they wouldn't really. But yeah, as far as like the what's gonna happen for Easy A's, what's gonna happen for Easy A's, that is sort of like the standing modifier that's happening. The thing is, if they save Daima for Anniversary, what they allow themselves to do essentially is forego the question of like what, because Anniversary celebrations especially can just be whatever the fuck they want, you know. For, you know, this year we got 6 LRs, we got Namek Goku and Frieza here, we got Giant Ape here, we got, you know, Super Saiyan Goku here, we got, you know, the gods here, right? So, you know, GT soon after. Whereas, like, you could go back to, what was the previous Anniversary? Yeah, here it is. You know, Super Boss is here. We got the Yellow Coin LR here. There's some, like, weird... was this the World Tournament? I can't remember, but either way, we got the really good Evo Ken Goku and Vegeta here, which I guess they were just attached to Super, even though they were technically, you know, Tournament of Power. Like, all of these characters who, like, really didn't need a hard landing spot just showed up, right? And then it led into, obviously, these two here. The reason Daima could show up as well from the 11th anniversary is, and this is like, again, I don't really want to be this guy who's like, you know, copesy, etc. Like, it's over for you, bozo. But because I really want Daima in the game now more than later. These are Power of Wishes, and I promise you, the day Super Saiyan 4 Goku shows up in game from Daima, he's gonna be right here leading this category, and they're gonna Easy A these two characters at the end of the celebration. And it makes way too much sense. And you look at Power of Wishes, and suddenly you're like, oh, they could do this, they could do this, they could do this, right? They could do Bulma at the end, right? Like, who's someone before them that they haven't done? They could super Easy A this guy, they could Easy A this guy, like at the after. They could Easy A, oh my god, they could do Piccolo, right? He could Easy A for the 11th anniversary on Power of Wishes. Like, it becomes really obvious that, like, Power of Wishes will probably be the landing spot, because all of the Power of Wishes characters essentially open up that year, because it was a category that it was like, you know, Super Saiyan 4 Goku's right here. It was a category that was essentially introduced with them, right? So we'll see. But those are just some early thoughts if you're looking for a landing spot. I know this video is sort of rambly, sort of, you know, very free flow, not really about anything specifically, but if you're looking for, like, what is the next big thing coming for Dokkan, what will I do next? Like, I don't really want to pull on Future. Maybe I'm not too hyped about a Shenron. Maybe I don't really want a Tag 4s that just do active skill Gogeta. I think those are our big landing spots now. So here are, you know, just some predictions, things to look forward to. I will say, please, if you're someone who is free to play or low spending and you take breaks from the game, just log in. You don't have to do your dailies, but log in every single day if you can, because logging in gets you so much of these celebration bonuses, And, you know, you might get 20 stones here, 30 stones here, 10 stones here, 20 stones here. I say it all the time. People always say you have to pull characters to do missions. The missions really don't give you the actual, like, bulk of your stones. Just log in. You need to log in. Dokkan loves just handing the stones out. Please log in. With all that said, though, I've been Lone. Like if you like the video, subscribe to join the club. We all gonna make it, and peace.